All right, folks, thanks for tuning back in to Patriot News. And as you know, Chief Arredondo was fired, was terminated. And I had predicted that about 3 weeks ago. I made a video. I was off by 3 days. So his attorney wrangled it a little bit further than I thought. But he is terminated, okay? And just like my last video I did on this subject, and don't hate me for this. I'm just telling you the facts, guys. Okay, I back the blue, right? But I do not back this situation that happened in Uvalde. This horrible event in Uvalde. I do not support what happened there. Okay, not at all. Arredondo will work somewhere else, guys. Okay, he will work somewhere else. There's no mark. There's going to be no mark on his record as far as I can tell. Okay, there wasn't even a mark on his record when he was demoted in I think it was Webb County. Okay, he was demoted, and he will keep his peace officer license. He's going to work somewhere else. Okay. I'm going to show you a video here of why I think that, but some police departments do not think he did anything wrong. Okay, he will work somewhere else. Just probably not in Texas. All right, probably not a good idea. And the parents are still pretty fired up. It's probably best he does not. It's probably best he leaves Uvalde altogether. And I want to go back what I said on my last video. Again, I hope I am wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but I hope I am. No feds are going to be disciplined or terminated, nothing like that, okay? The Border Patrol agents, they're going to, say, hey, they were secondary. This isn't really their typical job. They were there for backup. I mean, they did what they could. But the Bortec team, and so no feds will be fired or disciplined. No DPS officers will be fired or disciplined. Okay, that's just my prediction. And I don't think any Uvalde Police Department or CISD officers will be fired. Maybe some kind of light discipline. I think it will be highly suggested to them that they resign. The ones that were there. I don't think they're going to be terminated, but I think it's going to be recommended very highly that they resign, and they probably should end up doing that. The parents want these officers fired next. They said Arredondo is the first stop on the list. Next up is going to be Eduardo Canales, Adrian Martinez, Paul Villa, Justin Mendoza, Mariano Vargas. I think it was Lieutenant Javier Martinez, I believe is his name. It's the one guy. I think he's like my age, right, 50 something. The one that had ran down the hall, and that was really trying to get in there several times. He made several attempts. I don't think that gentleman anything should happen to him at all. But there again, I don't think anything's gonna happen to any of these guys. But my question is, why just these 5 officers? Okay, there were other Uvalde Police Department officers there, quite clearly, heavily armed, as in AR-15s, or even a pistol, None of them broke rank and said, hey, this isn't a good deal, and did their own thing. None of them went to the window to try and do anything. I mean, didn't do anything. So I'm not sure why just these five officers, why they're particularly going after them and not some other ones. Maybe they are. I'm not saying this is all the parents want this. This is just, I don't know how many of them want these five, but apparently that's going to be next up on the list. And you know, if you're keeping score, only Arredondo is the one that's been terminated. The principal, what's her name, Mandy Gutierrez, I believe. She was suspended, then got her job back. Then now her job title has changed. So nothing happened there either. And you know, I don't know what she could have. Maybe she could have done some things different that day, but definitely the lack of security falls back on all of them. The principal, the school district, the Arredondo. I mean, just everybody. It's just really lacks security all around. Let's watch this video real quick and get another opinion on if anything's going to happen to these other guys. Let's watch this video real quick.
Now by Joe Thompson. He is a former NYPD officer. Joe, thank you so much for being here with us.
Good morning, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. So this is the outcome that honestly we were expecting, correct?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that we were expecting this. This was pretty inevitable.
Of course. So what were your thoughts as you were hearing that the school board did say unanimously that they were firing him? Does it seem as though they were sending a message by unanimously doing it?
Well, absolutely. I think they were under tremendous pressure from the community. You saw there in your clip some of the parents, some of the statements that were made. It's kind of hard to watch. You know, they had no choice but to make some changes, and that's the first change that they needed to make, and you know, it was the right choice.
Do you think at this point that more firings are coming? This, as you mentioned, is just the first one. Could it be a line of firings again to send a message?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I think that the scope of this investigation is going to be very broad. I believe that the congressional committee did their own investigation, but there's going to have to be a very broad law enforcement investigation of this, where they're going to have to speak to everybody. They're going to have to speak to all the officers that were on the scene. They're going to have to speak, get witness statements from everybody, listen to the 911 calls again, listen to the radio transmissions. The bottom line is they need to know what happened here in order to be able to fix it. You know, we all want to say it's Pete Arredondo, lack of leadership, and I totally agree from what I've seen so far. You need an investigation to be able to come in to say, well, what did Pete Arredondo tell these other officers? What did he know? What was he told? Did the 911 calls that were coming from the classroom get to him? Did they reach any of the officers? And the only way to do that is through a very broad investigation and speak to everybody that was on that scene that day. And you got to start at the beginning, from the moment that the first calls came in. You have to look at the 911 calls that came in, what was stated. I mean, the scope of this investigation is going to be broad, and I'm sure you're going to see a lot more coming down the pike with this. And I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing criminal charges filed. I know Texas does have a statute of endangering a child and abandoning a child. That is something that law enforcement is, you know, privy to as well, and they're not. You know, that's something that could be used against them.
And you've worked in schools. As this was all unfolding here, did you think it would take 3 months for this firing to happen? Does it seem like that's too long, not enough time, in your opinion?
Well, whenever you're talking about a firing, I don't know how it works there, if they have a union or whatever, but there are policies and procedures that take place in order. You can't just turn around and say you're fired and that's it in most cases. That particular agency, I'm not certain how they operate or if there's a union or something involved, but usually it seems that way. Maybe there was a union involved, and they do take, you know, quite a bit of time in order to be able to go and fire somebody. Again, you know, you don't really have a full, thorough investigation yet. I mean, you do have the congressional one. I don't know. I guess they probably based their findings off of that, but there has not been an actual law enforcement investigation done on this particular case. Usually that's what most people will pivot off of and use that for firings, for criminal charges. The DA will use that also to convene a grand jury if necessary. So yeah, these things can take a long time, and I know it's frustrating to all the parents out there. I completely understand. But you know, at least the right thing was done at this particular time, and now it's time to regroup and learn from this tragedy.
And many people, including us, did read that report that initially came out. It was dozens of pages. As someone who did work in schools, what, I guess, stood out to you as you were reading that report?
There was numerous things that stood out to me. The first thing that really kind of is obvious is there really should be some sort of a law, and I'm not even talking about Texas, I'm talking about this throughout this entire country. We need to have a law enforcement officer stationed at every school. This kind of stuff is happening way too often. It's happening, you know, way more than anybody would have ever imagined. We need to have somebody there to protect these children. That's number one. We need to have law enforcement in every school. This particular school, Robb Elementary, they didn't have somebody stationed there. They had a roving group of guys that would just check in on the school. That's not good enough. Obviously, as you can see, this is the end result of that. There were so many different deficiencies in that school with closed doors and doors that were unlocked and left open. The main point of entry at that school, there was 3 doors that people were able to come in and leave from. You know, that should be only down to one entrance and one egress in the school. Walking through the hallways and checking.
All right, let me let me show you why real quick. I think Arredondo will work somewhere else. You see these officers? These guys are from College Station that came and greeted Arredondo there like he was a hero. Okay, you know how far away College Station is, where those officers are from? It's about 4.5 hours, maybe even 5, depending on traffic. Maybe 5.5, depending on traffic. Drove all the way over there. For what reason? They didn't need backup at this point. I mean, my God, there's 350 law enforcement personnel there. And who paid for that trip for those College Station officers to come over here to go to Uvalde? So that's one of my theories on why Arredondo's gonna work somewhere else. Okay. Right, and I still have a question, according to the member of this report from Texas House Representative Investigative Committee. I still do not know the officer's name or if this is even correct. My understanding is, again, officer had what was now determined to be a coach in his sights. You call back for a supervisor requesting permission to shoot. I just want to know if it's right or not, if it's correct. Was a coach almost shot that day? You know, and I don't think this thing has answered that. And we did not know the police officer's name that supposedly happened. So I mean, I just don't know, y'all. I want to watch 2 quick videos from WFAA where they talk about a pastor, Limones, and both of these anchors on WFAA claim that they say the pastor was shot. He was not shot. He was shot at. Okay, there's a big difference. If you remember, he was the one that ran with the funeral home attendant after Ramos crashed the truck. They ran up and Ramos shot him. They ran back inside the funeral home. They locked the door. And this pastor was also saying a great job that the police did that day. So you got to be careful when you're watching these little short videos. You don't give the full story. You got to dig around a little bit. But watch these 2 videos real quick. I'll show you.
The Uvalde CISD board has unanimously approved the rules for School Police Chief Pete Arredondo's termination hearing.
won't help our children. Any false narratives will not help our children.
Pastor Gilbert Limones was one of the first people shot outside of a funeral home before the shooter went to rob elementary.
Did you hear that? She said shot. Okay. No one was shot, not even a police officer, except for the students and those two teachers. All right? So let's go back, and maybe I missed it. Maybe I heard it wrong.
Pastor Gilbert Limones was one of the first people shot outside of a funeral home before the shooter went to rob elementary.
She definitely says shot. See what her coworker says here.
Uvalde CISD School Board has unanimously approved the rules for School Police Chief Pete Arredondo Elementary.
Mindless finger pointing blame will not help our children. CYA won't help our children.
That was Pastor Gilbert Limones, one of the first people shot outside a funeral home.
Definitely says shot, not shot at. He was shot at, not shot.
The school board also approved a community advisory committee to work on plans for a new elementary school.
At this point, we know that the board is planning on meeting with families privately to tell them the date of Arredondo's termination hearing before making a public announcement. Tonight, there was a 15-minute public forum at the start of the meeting. For the first time, we heard someone defending the actions of police. Gilbert Limones said he was one of the first people shot at by the shooter outside of Hillcrest Memorial Funeral Home. Limones says the police acted in extreme caution, and the only person responsible for the Robb tragedy was the shooter. His words were met with outrage from others in attendance at this meeting.
I'm not here to disrespect the families that have lost a loved one. Trust me, I work at the funeral home. I was there helping them.
3 minutes is up, sir.
We just want to say,
3 minutes is up.
As Limones was leaving, he was confronted by a parent and told he was pathetic. A Uvalde police officer escorted him out. Now, tonight we also learned that there is going to be a grievance hearing for Superintendent Dr. Hal Harrell. The date for that, next Monday, August 22nd at 6 p.m. Also next week, meet the...
Stassi dog. Goodbye, Stassi dog.